Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this picture. Composition plays a major part in this image, effectively leading the eye to the subject of the picture. In this case that has been achieved with a graduated focus from foreground to background. And that, together with carefully controlled highlights, all acting together, has produced this finished image. And in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Okay, so what I've got here is just a table, and on here I'm going to build the picture up. So the first thing I need are some wine bottles. So what I've got here are a few wine bottles which are filled with coloured water, just using food dye, and I've put these stoppers on just to make sure that they're all exactly the same. So just placing that on the table here. Now I need a way to make sure that I can line these up fairly precisely. So what I'm going to do is just make use of this straight edge, and I'm just going to place that on the table. Now doing it this way means that I can fairly accurately line up all the bottles. So if we just put the next one in, I can just push that up to the bar and so on. So with all the bottles all nicely lined up, the next thing to do would be to add the glass at the end here. This will form the subject of the picture. Now I've previously put some wine in the glass, so I'm just going to place that just on the end of the run. Something like that. There we are. So with the subject all arranged, next thing to do would be to place the camera. Now it's going to be quite important to have repeatability in this, so I'm going to use a tripod. I'm going to place the tripod at the front here, something like that. And for the camera I'm using this Phase 1 medium format digital camera. Now I'm using this because it's very modular and almost generic. So I can show how to make the picture with something like this, and then it's a lot easier, I think, for you to apply that to your particular format and your particular make of camera. Okay, so I'm just going to place this on the tripod, like that. Now I'm going to be using this camera tethered into Capture One software, so I'll just set all that up now. So there we are, that's all now engaged, and you can see that the software has recognised the camera, and I have all the controls on the camera on the software here. Now I'm using Capture One so that it's easy for you to follow the results as I get them. Okay, so at the moment I have the camera in full manual mode with a shutter speed of 1/125th of a second, ISO 100, and at the moment I have an aperture set of 2.8. Now that's the worst case, if you like. That would give a very narrow depth of field, so I doubt very much whether I'll end up using 2.8. But by using that at this stage, I can then check for any contamination from the house lights. So, first thing to do would be to just roughly set up the shot. First thing that I want to do is just set a rough focus. Press the autofocus button and let the camera focus it for me. There we are. So that's set a rough focus. I'll just swing that round. There. Now the next thing I want to do is just raise the whole thing up a little. I'm keeping the camera relatively flat and literally winding up the column on the tripod. There, that's the sort of position I want. Okay, so with that roughly set, the next thing to do will be just to grab an image and see what we get. There you are, you can see that we're actually getting some contamination from the house lights at 2.8. But as I said before, 2.8 is going to be far too narrow a depth of field. So I'm going to change that to, what shall we use, f4. So let's just change that to before. And at that new setting, I'll grab another image and see what we get this time. And there we are. It's much reduced. I'm still getting quite a lot of highlights here on the shoulders of the bottles from the lights that I'm using in the studio. So under normal circumstances, I would turn the studio lights out. But if I did that, you wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. So I'm just going to live with that for the time being. Okay, so the next thing to do would be to set a light. So here I have a 1000 joule studio head, and on the front of that I've got this 1 foot by 4 foot softbox. Now I'm using this because it will give me the correct shape of highlight. You'll see what I mean as I carry on. Okay, so we're going to get this into something like the correct position. So I'm going to put it at the back here. I'm just going to put that up in the air a little, like so. Now the exact position of this is actually critical. So the way that I'm going to set that is I'm going to turn the modeling light on here, and then use live view on the camera so that I can actually see what I'm doing. There we are. Now all you people that have mirrorless cameras will be used to using live view. It's very useful for doing this type of thing with. Okay, so whilst I'm looking at the live view image here, what I can do is maneuver the light so that I end up with the highlights here in the correct position. Now I want this highlight just to run down the very edge of the glass and just meet the liquid at the meniscus on the edge there. So if I bring the light back round this way, you can see that the highlight has moved round the glass. I just need to drop it down ever so slightly to about there. And also while I'm here, I'll check the focus. So I'll just go all the way in to 100%. Just put this on the edge of the glass and the bottle there. Now I can maneuver the focus. Here we are. So that's the bottle in focus. I can take it backwards a bit to make the glass in focus. I want to be somewhere in between, I think, like that. There we are. Okay, so with all that done, what I can do now is just turn off the modeling light. Don't need that on anymore. Like so. And I'll just dispense with the live view. And to set the energy level for the flash, what I'm going to do is temporarily just put it into TTL mode. There we are. And I'll just grab an image. And there we go. We can see that we're in the right sort of ballpark as far as the exposure is concerned, and the highlight looks as though it's in more or less the right place. But in the background you can still see all the various things that I have behind the set. So what I'm going to do is just put in a small flag just to give a plain background. There we are. So that should give a plain background, and it is quite some distance away from the rest of it, so we shouldn't have too much trouble with exposure on that. It should drop out to black. So I'll just grab an image and see what we get with that in place. Yep, that seems to have got rid of most of it, I think. So with that roughly set, I can take it out of TTL now so that I've got full control over the exposure. So I'll just go into the flash trigger and turn TTL off, put it back into manual mode, and at the same time I think I'm just going to take the overall exposure down by about a stop. There we are. With those changes made, I'll grab another image. There we are. That's coming along nicely now. So this is what we had before, and you can see all the background, and this is all a little bright. And this is where we've turned it down, and it's starting to get there, I think. But there's still a few things, a few details which make the image which are missing at the moment. And one is that the highlight that I have here. Now I set the light specifically to stop the highlight at the same level as the liquid in the glass. But what I actually want to do is make the highlight carry on, just to show the edge of the glass, to give it some shape, and also to carry on down the bottles. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is make use of this piece of card. Now I've previously cut this card so that it's at a bit of an angle, so that it gives a triangular shape. That's because this end is going to be very close to the glass, and the other end is going to be in the light. Now by placing that in this sort of position, I should end up with this highlight carrying on down the glass and also down the bottles. There we are. And immediately that's made quite a huge change. So this is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. So it's a fairly simple technique, but very effective. So the other thing that I want to do is just liven up the wine in this glass a little. As it is at the moment, it's more or less black. So again, I'm going to use a small piece of card, and I'm just going to place it behind the glass. Here we are. So I've got this piece of card which I've previously cut into the bottom of a glass shape, and I've put it in this retort stand so it's easy to maneuver it into something like the correct position. Now again, to find that position, what I'm going to do is turn the modelling light on this flash head and use live view. Okay, so if I just place this in behind the glass, get it in something like the correct position. So that should just lift up the wine in the glass ever so slightly. We don't want to overdo it. There. Okay, so with that in something like the right place, dispense with live view and just grab an image. And there we are. You can see now that this has actually started to liven up. It's not quite there yet, and it's not quite in exactly the correct position, but I've also just got a little bit of bleed through on this first bottle. If I go back to the previous image, you can see that that bottle is now dark, and in this image it's now a little bit bright. So I just need to address those two little things. So for the bottle, what I'm going to do is just add a very small flag just to the very back of the bottle. There we are, and with that I'll just readjust the flag behind the glass. Let's see if we can get it in something like the right position. So with those changes made, I'll grab that again. There we are, that seems to have done it. So you can see now that this is very dark, and we've got some more life in the wine in the glass. This is what we had before. So this was a little lighter, and this was a little darker. And this is what we've got now. Okay, so finally what I'm going to do, just to liven up the glass just a little bit more, I'm just going to dribble a bit more wine in, see if I can get some bubbles just round the edge. So just carefully drop that in. There we go, that's what we want. And now quickly grab that as an image. There we are. You can see that these just add that little something to the edge of the glass. Okay, so that's it for the capture. It's just going to go into Photoshop now and do the bare minimum of post-production. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and this is the file of the image that I captured earlier. So the first thing to do is just to make a duplicate of this so I can edit the duplicate and leave the camera original alone. So the way I tend to do that is just to go onto the background layer here and right click the mouse, ask for a duplicate layer, but ask for a new document. And we'll just call this wine. So with that done, I can now just shut down the camera original, and I've always got that to go back to. This is the one that I'll be editing. Okay, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is just look at a crop. So I'm going to pick the crop tool. I'm picking a specific ratio, which will be 16:9, as I'm using this for video. And I'm just going to move this in a little, just to concentrate the image a little. There we are, that's the sort of thing I want, I think. So I'll just click on OK. There we are. So with that done, what I'm going to do next is just clean up the top part of this glass. So I'm just going to zoom all the way in, like so. Just move over to that part of the glass. And I'm just going to add a new layer. And I'm just going to pick a tone from in here, just with the eyedropper tool here. And now I'm just going to use that just to paint in the top, like so. Just get rid of one or two of the distractions. There we are. So with that done, I'll just zoom all the way back out again. Now I can see that there's a speck of dust on the glass here, so I'm just going to use the spot removal tool. So just go onto that layer, maybe make that a little bigger, and we'll just get rid of that. There we go. And we'll just retouch one or two of the highlights on the bottle stopper as well. Okay, so there we have it. So with careful use of aperture to restrict the zone of focus, I've been able to lead the eye into the center of the picture. And then just with some careful lighting, I've been able to accentuate the shape of the glass and the bottles. And I think overall that has worked rather well. Okay, well I hope you liked watching how I made that image, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other pictures as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.